Mic. Camera. Action.
See, what we have here is a matter of humiliation and human kindness. My friend here loves his ring for all of his stupid reasons. And it would be very nice and civilized if you gents would understand that principle. Since you choose to be, Barney, what's the word?
Obstinate.
Too long.
Dumbbells.
Dumbbells. You leave me no other choice, Dinky.
Welcome back to Filmography, the show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue, from past debut through to present day, in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest to watch and discuss the next entry from the focused filmography and consider how it ranks amidst their career and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. For episode 45, I'm joined by the magnanimous Max Byrne to discuss the 45th big screen appearance of the Stath in the franchise fourquel Expend4bles. We watch, you listen, and hopefully watch along too. So, Max, I think I wanted to introduce you today with your kind of infamous catchphrase, really, horses for courses, because you're such a champion of watching movies for what they're supposed to be rather than what you want them to be. I think is the way that that's how I feel about you. I think you're always positive. You're always trying to come at it from the angle, from you know, not disparaging because it's just an action movie or it's just this or it's just that. So I wondered how you felt about your final trip with the Expendables and whether it's a thoroughbred or whether it's a lame.
I think lame is maybe too kind of word. I think it's on its way to the glue factory. You know,
Sure,
I think it's been put out of his misery. I mean, we'll discuss it at length in short order, but compared to it makes the first three look like, you know, the Ten Commandments and The Godfather and Citizen Kane and, you know, any other considered classic. It's not great. I can find as we'll hear shortly, I can find things that are good about it, and you know, there is some. It's not just a total turd. There is some good stuff in here to be had if you dig really deep. But yeah, for a franchise that I really did enjoy, the first three, this sort of latter day tag-on film, was something of a disappointment, shall we say. I remember being somewhat crestfallen when I exited the cinema the last year watching this. Jesus. Yeah.
So you and I both saw it at the cinema, didn't we? And this is your second watch, same as myself, to cover it today. When I knew this recording was due, I thought, right, better rewatch it, remind myself, and this was literally the first time I watched it since its opening week at the cinema. I think it didn't do much more than a week at the cinema, certainly not my way anyway. It was interesting to go back and watch it again and see if it was like I remembered. And it I'm sad to say it pretty much was. Again, good stuff in there. But yeah, just a real not good. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jack. I think it was always going to be a bit of a flop, really. For a few, the quality of the film notwithstanding, even if this film had been an absolute Bobby Dazzler and they'd made like the quintessential action film, which sort of usurped everything that had come before it. I think this film was always good. I mean, what did it make? 50 million off £100 million budget. A real disaster, wasn't it? But I think there was, at least in my opinion, there was 2 or 3 reasons why it was doomed for failure. I think the first one didn't help. I'm sure you'll agree, was the 9-year gap between part 3 and this one. No, as we were saying, actually, just for off air, there's kind of a trend at the minute for legacy sequels, and that we're speaking as we record this the day after the release of Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. And there's been other things in recent years like Top Gun Maverick and the revival of the Ghostbusters franchise, even Indiana Jones last year as well. But I think this one, the first 3 films were all released in like 2-year
intervals, weren't they? They bam, 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 one after the other. You capitalise on that momentum. Whereas to hold off on this, or to drag your feet, or have it in development hell, whatever the reasons are, but a 9-year gap, interest in the franchise had really sort of waned by this point, hadn't it? You're not going to attract the young audience because they were too young when the first 3 came out to really care. The people who were real fans of the original 3 have probably lost interest by now and moved on to other things. So I think that gap was a real shitty thing. And I don't know what it was like for you, but where I live, there was next to no promotion of the film as well. I don't remember seeing a TV spot. I don't remember seeing posters on the sides of buses or on billboards. And I also don't remember. I go to the cinema quite a lot myself, Jack. I probably go maybe once a week, on average.
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a month. And I don't recall seeing a trailer playing before any of the films I saw leading up to this. Now, you normally expect that as well. So I think Lionsgate, or whoever it is who put these films out, I don't think they put any money into it. So I just think that, and I won't bore you anymore, but I think the third and final reason that I came up with was the real lack of star power. That's we've spoken about this in when we've talked about the other 3. But in this franchise, half the hook of it is like, wow, look who they've brought in. Aside from the core cast, just Statham and Stallone and Dolph Lundgren, Randy Couture, and 1 or 2 others. You're bringing in Mel Gibson, you're bringing in Harrison Ford, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, to a lesser extent, Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's an icon of the genre. People like that, Jet Li, of course, as well. But this one, they really didn't have any wow factor with the casting with it, unless you're a huge 50 Cent fan. Or like some Megan Fox fanboy or something like that. Your big bad's Andy Garcia. Now, nothing against Andy Garcia. I'm a big fan of Andy Garcia. I think he's a fabulous actor, and he does a good turn in this, but he's not got that star power, has he? He's not like a huge name in cinema. So I think those kind of things really contributed to the sort of apathy from the general public. And then, like we said, the quality of the film doesn't help because it's a stinker. But even if it had been really good, I think it would still have really not done well at all. Yeah, if that makes sense.
It does. I think it's all spot on. I think how you've laid it out, you cycle backwards, and it's exactly right. I think they couldn't get a good cast together for it, and then because of that, obviously they cut the budget, and then Scott Waugh is the director. No shade on the guy. He did his best, but he's not a great director. Looking at what he's gone on to do from this, what he was doing before this. So they didn't bother promoting it, I think, because they knew they didn't have a good movie on their hands. So I think you're right. We can track that all the way through to us having to sit in the cinema, there being no trailers, and it not being any good. And really, I watched it purely because of the Stath. I guess you were there for Stath and Stallone, and we both knew because they'd spoken about it before. I mean, as you know, I'm a fan of Stallone too, but we knew that he wasn't going to be in it very much because they had put that in the promotion. This is his last hurrah, and the Stath is going to take over. So I think all of that's right, and I think they didn't know what movie they wanted to make, because originally it was going to be the Expendables, a Christmas story, wasn't it? It was going to be a Christmas spin-off.
Yeah, like a Hobbs and Shaw from the Fast and Furious kind of vibe, wasn't it? His own thing. Yeah. And then they've retroactively just threw some of the expense. You can tell as well from this. The film is very much the Lee Christmas show, isn't it? He spends a lot of it flying solo anyway. So you can really see they've repurposed that script, can't you?
Definitely. And I think they combined it with another pre-existing script, which does happen a lot. The Die Hard franchise is born off each subsequent movie after the first one, which of course itself was based off a book, were based off pre-existing scripts that they retrofitted to be John Le Carre movies. But particularly for the first 2 sequels, they kind of make that work. Here, I don't know. It feels like a mess. It doesn't feel like an Expendables movie, as you said, because it's not got the cast. It doesn't feel like it is an ensemble movie, which it should be. It feels more like a one-man army movie, which thankfully is in the second half, because that's the only good bit of the movie. As we'll talk about, because that first half is real hard to get through. Jesus. The whole thing was a mess. I don't know who was behind the scenes on this and what their thinking was, and why they waited 9 years, and was the Stath too busy and was Stallone too busy? I don't know, but it felt like a turkey before it ever got released, didn't it?
Yeah, It's a real strange one. I mean, you spot on what you said as well about the marketing, the fact that Stallone was going to play a very limited part. You know, when you build the cast list and it's and Sylvester Stallone as opposed to Stallone first, you kind of think, Christ, you know, he's not going to be in it much. And he kind of intimated that he might get killed off as well in this. Which might have originally been the case, maybe, you know, the bait and switch, which is again something I really want to discuss as well. That, you know, maybe that originally was him actually, you know, exiting this mortal coil. Who knows? But I mean, yeah, it's such a strange film. There is no ensemble, is there? It is a solo project really, bar a couple of bits here and there. You know, it's basically him on his own, out on his own odyssey, doing his own thing, really, teaming up with a few people here and there. It's just it just feels very different, very, very different to the original three. It just doesn't feel like an Expendables film to me.
No, I mean the Expendables are fucking useless in this.
Yeah,
they don't do anything.
Just get captured, don't they, basically?
That guy's win in the first action scene, and then in the second action scene, which is that big long sequence on a freighter, they just get captured and the Stath has to save them. Yeah.
They are pretty useless in this. I mean, oh God, the lineup as well is just so diabolical, isn't it? I mean, you're bringing back, obviously, Stallone and Statham. You're bringing back Dolph Lundgren and Randy Couture. Fantastic. They've been in every film so far. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But you don't bring back Terry Crews. You don't bring back Jet Li. You don't bring back Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was in all three prior to this as well. And you, like I said, you're bringing in 50 Cent, who's more like Tuppence Halfpenny. Never mind 50 Cent in this film.
Absolutely, yeah.
His acting's he is awful. I think they only got him in so they could secure the rights to his song at the end that they use as a decoy on the boat. Maybe they thought if we sign him, he'll give us the music with like royalty free or something like that. Well, I suppose he must have, you know, he'd worked with Stallone 3 times before this on the Escape Plan trilogy, hadn't he? So
and he wanted him for the original, didn't he? Did you read that's the role Terry Crews got, that he wanted 50 Cent for that at the time the Expendables came out.
Yeah.
But because he was too busy being a music star at that point, 50 Cent said no. Yeah. So that was one of my questions. Sorry to stop you mid-flow. Was that idea of like Stallone's been waiting for what, over 10 years, nearly 15 years? Was it 2009? I think the first one.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So was it worth the wait to get 50 Cent into this franchise? And you've just answered that. No. Yeah.
He is awful. Easy Day, that's the name of his character.
Yeah.
Easy Day. But I think, you know, we'll get into Megan Fox and what she brings to the table in a minute, which isn't very much. But possibly the worst member of the team is the guy who's supposed to be the son of Antonio Banderas' character, Galgo, from part 3. I mean, why they just didn't have Antonio Banderas? I guess he couldn't do it or didn't want to do it. So they must have rewritten the character, I guess, to be his son. But the guy playing the son, I think the character's called Galen or something like this. Jesus Christ, they've just found this Antonio Banderas impersonator. He spends the entire movie doing an impression, a really bad like OTT impression of Antonio Banderas. But he seems to be, rather than being Antonio Banderas' character from Expendables 3, he seems to be Antonio Banderas' Puss in Boots. And it sounds like he's playing Puss in Boots from Shrek all the way through. And it is grim. He's a cringe. I was kind of watching it, you know. I was sat in the living room watching it a couple of nights ago with Sarah, my other half. And I'm just, you know, when you're embarrassed to be watching something so bad in front of someone else, I was kind of watching it like this, going, oh my days. Yeah, he's not good. He's embarrassing, isn't he?
He is. Is it Puss in Boots or Piss in Boots? As you know, to play a spin on his character.
Yeah.
We do have we have Chekhov's urine in this, don't we? Which I'm not sure Anton Chekhov. I'm not sure he ever would have envisioned that. You know, when he came up with his Chekhov's gun theory, I suppose is the way to think of it, is that many years later in Expendables 4, you'd have a guy talking about golden showers and then needing to piss to get them out of where they're locked in. Just, I mean, and that kind of humor sums this movie up, doesn't it? You've got Andy Garcia's character Marsh talking about how are your balls hanging to Stallone, and then later on saying like, "Oh, you're like genital herpes, you just won't go away." And
He's obsessed
It's
with balls, isn't he?
yeah, the level of humor in this I think is so off. It's stereotypically like it's that stereotypical thing when like middle-aged men writing what they think is funny for young people, and it's just totally, it doesn't land on any level. I don't think the humor in this, even the banter between Stallone and Statham, is not good.
No, it feels very forced, doesn't it? Whereas in the previous 3 films, it was actually pretty good. The back and forth between them, the rapport. There's obviously a good bond there in real life, and they're taking the piss out of each other. Whereas this, it feels very tacked on, doesn't it? It's not great. It just feels very just kind of in. I mean, it's a shame really that Stallone's sort of participation in this film was so limited. I would have liked, I know it was his farewell to the franchise, but to only have him in it for essentially the first 10 minutes and the last 5 minutes of the film, if that, is just a waste. I throughout the watching it again the other night, I was thinking I really miss him in the film. I know, this is a Stath oriented show, and I love Statham, and he does a great job of carrying the film, and he is the de facto action superstar now, I guess, of the times we live in. He's probably, as a pure action actor, he's probably the premier exponent in the world now. But I don't half miss Stallone in this film. You just think, I wish Barney would be there just to do something and just to liven it up a bit, and just Stallone be Stallone. It's just, I don't like that choice to have him,
written out.
And the supposed demise of his character. It's easy to be smart having seen the film, but when you watch it now, it's blindingly obvious that he hasn't perished on that plane, isn't it? It's blindingly obvious.
And I think, it's obvious because it's of the type of movie we're watching, and the fact that when he gets shot down, he's just sort of flying into missiles. But actually, on this watch, I don't know whether I'm right and whether you picked up on it. I think they even gave us like the subtle. I shouldn't even try and use that word. They gave us the in your face clue, because I'm sure when he's wearing the ring and he's flying the plane, it's on his right hand. And then when it's the charred dead body, which we definitely have to talk about, the ring has been put onto the left hand. So I think there's lots of kind of signifiers in the movie of the fact that this isn't him.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with you. The film misses him. And it's back to your original point, which is really, we could just stop the podcast here. We could stop the recording here. This is a franchise built on the legacy of action superstars, built on the nostalgia of seeing them perform in these kind of characters and these roles that we love seeing them in 20, 30, 40 years ago. So to not have Stallone in it means we don't have anybody doing that anymore. Doesn't matter who's current now. And, obviously I love the Stath, you do. This whole thing is built around him, but he's not a legacy nostalgia action superstar. As you just said, he's a current contemporary superstar. So the whole I guess we've got Dolph Lundgren, but he's got a very small role to play. So that's just such a fatal flaw, I think, for this movie.
It is. They've thrown out the formula that worked in the previous 3 films. That's what they've done, isn't it? They've, it wasn't broke, so they decided to fix it. It just doesn't. It doesn't bear any sort of. You don't look at it and think, well, that was a really wise choice. That was really, really good idea. That it's no. They just take the elements you like and replace them, as we just said, with really substandard actors / characters. Give us, if you're gonna not bring back the legacy stars of the previous films, then find some more.
Absolutely.
Put some. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's fucking Michael Dudikoff. Get in.
Absolutely.
Whoever it is. Anyone from that era who's got a bit of name value and a bit of name recognition, get them in. Don't cast 50 Cent. Don't cast Megan Fox. Don't cast. I don't even know the lady's name off the top of my head who plays Lash. Who's like?
He's like Levy Tran.
Levy Tran. That's it. Yeah. I mean, she brings nothing to the table either, other than to sort of poke fun at Randy Couture's character allegedly having a small dick. That's all. That's kind of all she's there for. She makes Megan Fox look like a convincing CIA operator.
Yeah, it's true.
but I mean, she is kind of awful, isn't she? Really?
Yeah.
Megan Fox's character is just so. She's so for a cat start, she's so unlikable, isn't she? When you first see her, she's being a complete bitch at the start. When Stallone goes to ground to get Statham to come and help him unpick his mess at the bar, she's just being awful, isn't she? Like just really like irrational and just overly shouting. You think,
Yeah, the characterization, I'll use that term loosely, the caricaturization, I suppose. Yeah, for her character, Gina, at the start, how she's introduced is so like reductive, so like not retroactive, I don't know what the word is, but like it's so backwards. It's just not who exists in culture anymore. So that's why they've tried to go backwards and looked at doing something from the 80s. But it really doesn't work. And when she's supposed to be part of the Expendables team, she becomes the leader, and we can talk about the reasoning behind that and whether that works or not, I guess, when we get there. But yeah, it's a horrible introduction. I actually feel sorry for her in this role. I feel sorry that she felt like she needed to take it. I don't know. Like, I mean, Megan Fox has never been a great actress, but she's always had good presence, I think. And here, there's just nothing for her to work with. She's, as you said, a shrieking girlfriend, and then an unlikable. I don't even know what the word is, but she's like, I guess she's sort of going behind Lee's back, isn't she? Sort of going behind Christmas's back, so she's sort of unlikable there. And then she's a shit team leader, and then she's smug when she thinks like things have gone her way, and nothing about her character works. And I think when you've got an actress that isn't great, she's not going to be able to elevate that material.
Yeah. But she's just utterly unbelievable as well. She's supposed to be like this badass CIA operator who's deemed worthy to lead the team. After obviously Barney's alleged death and Christmas being kicked off the team for going off mission. So she's like placed as a leader. So she's supposed, and she even says at the start when she's being all awful, she's like, I've got the skills that outmatch you two. You're a couple of old dinosaurs or whatever. So she's supposed to be this like elite, like military personnel, but she's just not. She when they go onto the huge ocean liner at the end for the big sort of third act, she's dressed like she's going for a night out. She doesn't look. You can't in any way suspend your disbelief and buy the fact that she's worthy of team. She's there, makeup, caked in makeup, dressed to the nines. She doesn't look like she's about to go on a black op and take down a terrorist cell on this boat. No, she looks like she's going down to the bar or something. It's just a really weird casting choice. I get, they're obviously they want to find a leading lady that's got some appeal, that is going to look nice on screen with Jason Statham. I get all that, but they could have made her like Charisma Carpenter's character in the first two, where she doesn't have to then all of a sudden be involved in the military action. She could still play the part and of Jason Statham's other half and be given lots to do and have a meaty role. But then to make her this, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It takes me out of the film a little bit, if that makes sense.
I agree. And we're not allowed to cast her anymore, but Gina Carano would have been better in this role, or Katie Sackhoff would have done a great job in this role, because you believe them in the role of being physical and being able to take charge and use weapons, and they are still very attractive, beautiful women. So Megan Fox doesn't fit it at all. And the styling is weird. That first scene when she's being like the ball buster to Statham, and then she's criticizing Barney and Lee. And I hate the fact she calls him Christmas as well. That really bothers me. Like, they're meant to be in a relationship, and she calls him Christmas. Anyway, I just don't buy it. But Rene Russo, I'm trying to think now. Lethal Weapon 3 and 4. Does Rene Russo's character call him Riggs? Maybe, but I buy that. I don't know. Calling him Christmas doesn't feel right. Go on.
Yeah, sorry. I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it?
She would definitely call him Lee, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
but
No, you go.
No, it makes sense, because Rene Russo's like they're police colleagues before they hook up, aren't they? So
Yeah.
she would call him Riggs because that's just what everyone calls him on the force, isn't it? So that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for these two, it doesn't quite make sense, that she would just call him Christmas. Yeah, it's a very unbelievable kind of relationship they have as well there. There's not a huge amount of on-screen chemistry, I don't think, between the two of them. Neither of them's fault as such. I just don't think it gels really well. I mean, she's a lot younger than him, but that's kind of the dumb thing anyway in Hollywood, isn't it? No one bats an eyelid at the man being 20 years older or more than the woman. If it was the other way around, obviously that would cause a lot more kerfuffle. Not that it should, but I guess it would. But then again, I suppose it mirrors the Stath in real life, doesn't it? His better half is about 20 years younger than him, I suppose.
Well, she literally replaced Megan Fox in the Transformers franchise, didn't she? So
I wish she'd replaced her in the Expendables franchise as well. That'd been nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that first scene when they're together is weird. When she's like stood in the doorway between them. I don't know if it is the makeup or if there's a filter on the camera or whether it's just seeing Megan Fox dolled up to the nines between these two craggy old men. But something about it just feels really odd. Just the look of it is odd, and straight away the way the phrase you used, I'm taken out of it. I was exactly the same. I was like, oh, something doesn't look right here, and there's no chemistry, and I don't buy any of it.
Yeah, I believe for once I'm on the side of Barney here because he spends the other films trying to. You made the point about the theory that maybe Barney's, romantically attached to Lee Christmas, a one-way, unrequited attachment, but it's there nonetheless because he's always warning him off the girls, isn't he, and all this. And you think, oh, come on, Barney, give it a rest. But in this one, you actually side with him when it's like, yeah, he's right. She's no good. Ditch her, Lee. Find another love interest or something like that. But yeah, she's just a very unlikable character. It's not a reflection on Megan Fox per se. You work with what's been written, of course. That's the part as it was on the page, I guess. But yeah, it's just a really odd casting and just a really badly written part, I think.
Yeah,
which is a shame because it's a shame really because it was a really good opportunity, to have female presence on the team. They did it a bit in part 2, didn't they? Forgive me, I forget the actress's name, but she played,
I know you're right. Yeah. She joins the team.
Maggie, was it?
Yeah, woman on the team. Yuck.
Yeah, but she's really good,
Yeah.
and you believe her. You believe her in the role of being this,
you do.
Special ops, Black Ops, Special Forces kind of badass. You believe it from her, and you can almost believe it in part 3 with Ronda Rousey, almost, because at least she comes from a legit, MMA background where she beat people up for a living, but here you just can't. That's the problem. And if they'd cast the role right, it could have been a really great part, of someone to, someone who's like Lee's equal, equal in the bedroom and equal on the battlefield kind of thing. But it kind of just fell flat, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And it all comes in this real messy opening, which I don't think helps either, because that bit's not working. And then the scene when they go to the bar doesn't work, and it's intercut with actually quite a decent action scene, which is Eco Oasis team going into Gaddafi's old compound, isn't it? Which I found interesting.
It literally says that, doesn't it?
Yeah. We used to have Helena. We had these made up countries because we shied away from offending anybody. But fuck it. Let's just go to Libya and say it's Gaddafi's old power plant. But yes, that scene's actually pretty good, and that's what opens the movie, isn't it? For about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's a really hard cut to the Sly on his hog and his Expendables garage, and then we get all this chops up junky stuff with the Statham, with Stallone and Megan Fox, and then the bar, and then we cut back to Libya, and then we cut back to America again, and then we cut back. All of this is just not working. I think I would have preferred. We'll talk about the bar scene, of course, in a minute. I wonder how you feel. I would have preferred just like a cold open, because again, the action scene when we get the Expendables going into Libya is probably, well, certainly the highlight of that first hour, and is kind of echoing that scene in Expendables 2, which we said is probably the high point of the franchise, didn't we? That's quite a decent scene. It's like almost a bit like Jason Statham's Death Race, the way they're kind of racing around in these jeeps. And I think if they just open with that, and then maybe we could have had some drop lines or even a flashback, or I don't know, something to tell us all of this other 10 minutes that we didn't even before, because none of it works, and the intercutting doesn't work either. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, it's a real kind of tonal mishmash, isn't it? You know, you've got that opening scene as well. It's a really sort of, thankfully they cut right at the moment, but there's a bit where he basically executes that soldier's son, doesn't he?
Like the colonel's son. Yeah,
he's a boy of about 10 or 11 years old, isn't he? And he holds him at gunpoint, obviously, to get the pass. I think it's to get the password or something, isn't it? Out the colonel, so the passcodes or something like this, and he won't give it up, and then he gives up. But then he puts a bullet in the boy's head. It cuts as he's pulling the triggers. Obviously, you don't see something like that. But that's. I don't want to use the word good, but it's good in a way that it frames Eco's character as this, sadistic villain, and I think he is a really good villain in this film. Actually, it's one of the high points. I think he's a really good villain. I think he has really sort of uneven charisma, like he's smirking a lot and very laid back. It reminds me a bit of Van Damme's character actually from the second one.
Villain, yeah,
very much. He's like the Eastern version of Villain, isn't he? He's very good actually, to be fair, with what he's given. But yeah, it's like a real, like, you've had that really hard hitting scene, and then you're going to have all this comedy banter at Statham's house. You know, the battle of the sexes, and Stallone stood there looking confused by the whole thing. Yeah, and then this, and then this scene down at the bar where basically Stallone's had a heavy night the night before in this biker bar. And his lucky ring, which has been a feature of all the films, hasn't it, to this point? He basically lost it in a game of, was it arm wrestling or thumb wrestling or
thumb wrestling.
So he lost it, and he lost his ring fair and square, right?
Yeah.
So a bet's a bet. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. If you lose, you bet, you pay up. Yeah, that's the way it goes. So basically, he gets his mate, his hardest person he knows, which is Lee Christmas, down to the bar to basically beat the shit out of all these people, to basically take his ring back by force. Not even like saying, how about a rematch or something like this, and Lee will play in my place. You pick your best man, here's my best man. If he wins, I get my ring back, and we'll see you later. But they just take it, and it makes Barney really unlikable, doesn't it? Because it's not right, is it? It's kind of dishonorable what they do, isn't it?
100%. No, I can't disagree with you on any of those points. Yeah, we get the meta Thumbo joke, don't we? Which is okay, and then we get the shot of the ring behind the bar and a dildo. It's like a two-pronged
massive one,
yeah. So he's got the big dick and then the small dick, isn't it? But it's like two, and then the Stath is like, oh, striking resemblance. And I was thinking, whoa, hang on, to what? It being on Barney's finger or it being on Barney's dick, or like even the jokes don't really make sense in this movie. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a terrible idea, this scene, because it's dishonorable, even down to the point that Lee throws the first punch. That's a big deal for me as well. Like, what they're doing is already wrong. And then he's got the knuckle dusters, and he's like, it's time for a classic. And he doesn't wait for them to attack him. He is the aggressor. He beats the shit out of all these people. For entirely the wrong reason. It's really poorly judged.
It's just not right, isn't it? I mean, these people in this bar, they're probably not the nicest people in the world. Exactly, but they fundamentally didn't do a lot wrong. Other than beat Barney the night before when he was probably fucked up or whatever. And they just get absolutely the shit beaten out of him. And Barney doesn't even, he gets Lee to do his dirty work for him anyway, doesn't he? He doesn't, like, if he was half the man he's supposed to be, he'd be down there himself, beating everybody up and saying, give me my ring back or something. But no.
I don't even get that joke either, because he's going on about having a bad back, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then when the really, truly big dude runs at him, he's fine. He just throws him over the bar and he defeats him easily. So I don't even... I'm not sure what that joke is either. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, he like gives him a back body drop over the bar. Eddie Hall from Game of Thrones, who's this fucking man mountain, isn't he? And he's like, oh, my back's better now, it's fine. And then and take the ring, and poor old Jumbo Shrimp, though. I
Mm.
mean, again, you know, he's a little weasel of a man, isn't he? You know, he's a
Yeah.
little scumbag. But again, he did nothing wrong.
No.
And, you know, they took his ring back by force. So then why Barney feels the need to then literally make him a sacrificial lamb
Mm.
as the means of faking Barney faking his own death? Why he would choose Jumbo Shrimp to literally die? It's an awful thing to do, isn't it?
It really is. We obviously, I think I remember you and I were messaging about it when we watched it the first time in the cinema, but watching it again now, knowing it was coming, I can't, obviously in movie, there's absolutely zero way to justify what happens. As you said, this guy's probably a criminal. He's probably up to stuff. So that's what they're trying to do, but they don't depict any of that. So you don't know that. So in movie, there's no justification, but the creators of the movie as well, I don't see how they thought this was funny or a good idea or was a clever payoff to the movie. Because essentially, yeah, as you said, Jumbo Shrimp is innocent. He won a bet against Barney. And now Barney is a straight up murderer. That's what he's done. He's murdered Jumbo Shrimp.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? You know, I mean, he's killed dozens of men in the other films, but that was, you know, in the theater of war, as they put it. And you know, it's in combat, so that's you're killing people, but you're not murdering them, if that makes sense, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're there as a soldier or a mercenary, but as a soldier, I guess. So that's different. And those men are prepared to die anyway, you know, and all the rest of it. And it's you or them, isn't it? But yeah. He's literally a stone cold killer.
Yeah, he is,
and it's just not fair.
No,
you know, jump. You know, he didn't even have the decency to like sedate him long enough for him not to like perish horribly in the plane as well, does he? Because he, you know, again, I guess we're spoiling the film anyway. We're spoiling the film anyway for people, aren't we, who haven't seen it by now anyway. So essentially, Barney, the mission at the start, they're all on the ground, but Barney stays in the plane to provide air support, if you will, and then the plane gets shot down and into a building, bursts into flames, and you see the charred remains of Barney, and the ring is still on the hand, and everyone goes, "Oh shit, Barney's dead." But obviously, we discover that he had Jumbo Shrimp there, locked in the storage locker, in the exact same outfit that Barney wears in the field. Unconscious, must have been drugged or something. And then as the plane's going down, he puts poor old Jumbo in the driver's seat, backdoors it with a parachute, and then leaves Jumbo to basically wake up in time to crash and die horrifically in the flames. And it staggers me that no one would have thought, the remains of the body, Jumbo's like half the size. Do you know what I mean? You know, someone would have put two and two together and gone, okay, so he's got Barney's ring on. He's dressed in Barney's uniform that he literally just wore. Okay, it probably is Barney. But then, did Barney like shrink while we left him on the plane? Did he become half the size of the man he was? It's just ridiculous, isn't it, that no one would have pieced that together? Like, you know, they're supposed to be elite military men who, you know, have a bit of intelligence up there. Surely someone would have gone, that is not Barney Ross there. You know, it's daft, isn't it?
It's really daft, and played for laughs. Like it's the big joke at the end of the movie. Like it's a two-shot Statham and Stallone. And it's like, whoa, yeah, we really got him. Sorry, what? Like, it's really poorly misjudged, and that's interesting. I hadn't even thought of that, but you know, even when you start getting to the nitty-gritty of the logistics of it, it doesn't even work either. So. Yes, it is a poor decision amongst the catalogue of poor decisions, unfortunately, in this movie.
Yeah, it is. And again, like I said, it's easy to be smart when you know the film, but you know for a fact that it's not him. You know, when they're having that wake for him down at the bar and everything, and they've got the hand like going like this with the finger up and the ring on it just in the middle of the bar. Yeah. They wouldn't have like severed Barney's hand off his corpse and just put his hand on the bar. They just wouldn't have done that out of respect. Do you know what I mean? So again, obviously they think it's Barney. They don't know Barney's still alive, obviously. But in terms of like the film itself, you just know that he's not dead, don't you? You know, because and up to that point where the plane crashes, there's no communication with him either, so you know he's not on the plane because they're connected by radio, aren't they? And Barney's like, initially he says to him, "No, stay on mission," and then he tries to save Barney, which is why he does get kicked off the team for disobeying the order. But you just know it's not him, so that you know there's no real surprise when he crops up at the end and goes, "Ah, surprise! I'm not dead."
There's
you know?
not just as there's no surprise who Ocelot is either.
Oh Christ, no. You can tell there's that one bit where they're captured, aren't they? Before Stath turns up, and the baddies come in and go, "Who's in charge here?" And he goes, "It's me." And then when they fetch him up to the bridge of the ship and that to send the message, and he acts all like overacts, like terrified, doesn't he? And it's like, come on now.
I also hate those scenes in movies because that when they're in the hold, Andy Garcia as Marsh as Ocelot is acting for the Expendables. When he's taken up to the bridge, he's acting for the audience. Now he's on the bridge. Surely he can just be Ocelot. Like, who's he acting for? Because Iko always knows, right? That's his number one. That's his right hand man. So he's now continuing the pretense. What, for all the hired goons? It makes no sense. It's just for the film, and that I hate that because it's breaking the conceit of the movie.
Yeah.
Because now again, I'm taken out of it because I'm thinking like, but he doesn't need to act anymore. You're just trying to hold the reveal for later. Yeah, it's again really poorly scripted.
Yeah, the only bit you could say would need to carry on the act is when they go on the video call to the woman who he works with, saying you need to send this prisoner down, and we'll exchange the prisoner for the for the bomber.
He could be normal with a
for that.
Yeah.
But for everything else, why is it's so so daft just so he can go, oh my god, when the prisoner Bai turns up and he goes, hello Bai, and then he goes, bye bye bye, and then shoots him in the head, and you're like, oh my god, it's Andy Garcia all along. But again, it's just, come on. It's so signposted, isn't it?
It is. I quite liked bye bye bye. That's quite a funny line. I wish he'd done it in
like a film,
I wish he'd done like an NSYNC impression, but you can't have everything, can you?
No, it's a shame. Maybe maybe they could have cast one of NSYNC as one of the Expendables who were taking on all comers in this film, so they may as well.
Yeah, right. They probably couldn't afford the royalties for it, unfortunately.
No, that's true. Yeah, that they would have had to do a 50 Cent and cast one of them in the film to offset the royalties or something like that. But yeah, I mean that's just indicative of the film, isn't it? The way you see these things come in, it's just, I think they're trying to be too clever and just don't know how to execute it. There are ways of doing 100%. But no, it's just really poorly executed. It's a shame though, because like I said, there is some good in here. I think, like we said, Iko as Ramat, I think his character, he is bad. Yeah. He's really, really good. He's a worthy villain. As a physical adversary, I think he's up there with what we got in part 2 with Van Damme and Scott Adkins.
Yeah,
I think he's really good. And that fight, the one-on-one fight with Statham on the bridge of the knife and the sticks and everything and the axe, I think that's that's the best bit of action in the film, isn't it?
Definitely. It's short, but I think by design, that's not a bad thing because it's all fast paced. It's well choreographed. It was Jackie Chan's choreography team, I believe, that was brought in to do this. So it makes sense why the choreography was good for the fighting.
Yeah.
And it's been performed by 2 people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
When it's Iko and it's the Stath, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's really good. I mean, it's the best. I think the only other thing it comes close to is the stuff you get from Tony Jaa in the film as well.
Yeah.
I think his
not enough though, unfortunately.
No, it's not, is it? I would have liked him to have been in it all the way through as opposed to just appearing. His performance is really good, actually, and really interesting. He plays this guy, Deishar or whatever, who's like again, is he supposed to be a former Expendable? I'm not sure. He doesn't have the tattoo, does he? But
okay. Maybe it's pre-Expendable days, but he's
Thai elite fighting force, isn't he? And someone Barney knew from back in the day, which is why Stath goes to track him down. but he's got a really weird delivery in the film. His way of speaking, his lines, it's really off. His mannerisms are really off kilter. He's like, oh no, I cannot fight. You know, if I let the darkness out, I'll go back to the man I was. I'll never come back. You know, and all this. Yeah, but I really like him in the film. Him and Iko Uwais are like the two standouts for me in this film. I think they're both brilliant.
Definitely.
They light up the screen. It's a shame they didn't get like a really good one-on-one fight between them. I thought we might see that when I initially watched it. Anyway, would have been quite something to see those two face off.
Yeah, I love it when Tony Jaa turns up on the ship and he's like smeared. He's got his like commando, like Predator. You got the Navy SEAL type like makeup smear. I don't know what it's called, but like the
that's really pointless as well.
Yeah. The status like I like your look.
Yeah, he's wearing like a white headscarf or something, isn't he? And like bright coloured clothes. So it's not like going to work on a camouflage level or anything.
No, just looks badass.
So yeah, he's basically just smeared it onto like Batman or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, he's really cool. I like his character a lot. He has just that offbeat charisma. I think it's really good. And of course, what he brings to the table with the martial arts, and I like like the way he twizzles his knife every time. Like when there's like a break in the action, it's like, right, this is what we're going to do. He's like, I got this, and just like he like twizzles his knife every time, and then just dives in. Yeah. Really, really good. It's like you said though, it's a shame he wasn't in it more, isn't it?
Definitely, and even when he has like the big scene, he's taking on like Iko's number one, so number two. That's a good fight. And then Lash comes to join in, and I thought like, oh, I don't really want her to join in. And actually, she's pretty good as herself as well. But I was enjoying Tony Jaa being Tony Jawsome. Tony Jawsome, I don't know, doesn't quite work, does it? But yeah, I was really enjoying him because it was so limited the amount of screen time he got. I wanted that fight to keep going and for it to be that kind of mano.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame. Again, it's just one of them things, isn't it? But that whole end sequence, it's just it really does jump the shark, doesn't it? In a lot of ways, with like Statham's one-man army, the stuff with the motorbike as well. I mean, good lord, you know.
I think it starts strong. I think when he snuck on the boat, when Dacius helps him get on the boat, and it's kind of Die Hard on a freighter.
Yeah.
And he's sneaking around, taking people out with headshots and all kinds of stuff. That's a cool scene. And then you're right. And then for some reason, he does the Die Hard thing where he gets on the radio and announces that he's there. I'm not sure why he did that. I'm not sure what he thought he was. I can't see what tactical advantage that gives him. Because suddenly they all come after him.
Yeah.
And then
the elements of surprise there, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. And then it goes absolutely nuts. He gets on like a scrambler bike, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But it's like a Delta Force type one with machine guns on the front.
It is. It's pure Chuck Norris and Delta Force, isn't it? It's exactly the same thing. Just missed that brilliant theme music from the Delta Force that literally plays throughout the entire film. I wish they'd have just snuck a bit of that in there, but it just becomes something really crazy when he does that ridiculous Fast and the Furious stunt where he does a jump up in the he's literally 30 or he jumps it literally 30 or 40 feet in the air, which is physically impossible anyway with that size of run up. And he tilts it in midair and he's firing down at the other guy while he's. I mean, of course, you know this isn't the Bourne Identity they're making here. It's not supposed to be realistic action, but it just is like, oh Jesus Christ. But yeah, I guess that just circles back to what we were saying, doesn't it? It is essentially the Jason Statham. That third act is the Jason Statham show, isn't it? You know, they're all locked up. He comes to rescue them. Then there's a bit of team interplay where everyone gets a bit of time in the sun. But then they all go, right, we're going to escape now. Dash's boat's here. But then he has to stay behind and then become the one-man army all over again. You know, it's like, come on,
the BMX
share the wealth.
It's true. The BMX stuff made me think of like Triple X even more than Fast and Furious. Yeah, because it's supposed to be like X stunts and like scramblers and the skateboards and the stuff when they bring in the rest of the Expendables. We spoke about this when we did the second one, particularly I think better than all of them, where they all do get like a really cool moment. They sort of tried it in 3, but we don't really care about any of them, so it didn't work as well. But in the second one, it is like, oh, now it's time for Stath versus Scott Adkins, and oh, now it's time for I don't know, whoever, Terry Crews to do this cool thing, and then Randy Couture to this cool thing. Everyone got their moment. Whereas here, it doesn't feel like the rest of the team get any good moments, really. I don't think.
No, I completely agree. Apart from Tony Jaa, like we said, no one else. You know, we were talking before about Megan Fox. I don't recall what she did in that final battle. Maybe she fired a gun a couple of times. I just don't remember doing anything in that. I'd have to watch it back. You know, Randy Couture gets shot or stabbed.
Yes, he gets stabbed.
He gets stabbed, doesn't he? So he spends most of the fight like, oh shit, I'm bleeding to death, you know, and they're like, oh, we've got to save him. You know, Dolph Lundgren doesn't do a lot other than like, it's a really kind of bad taste joke as well, because he's like an alcoholic drug addict in recovery, and because he's not pissed up anymore, his aim when sober isn't quite the same as when he's drunk. So the only way for him to become a great aim again is to fall off the wagon during the fight. He's like, oh fuck it, and next his hit flask of whiskey, which why he would have that on him anyway when he's like, you know, battling addiction and always reading these self-help books, but he keeps a nip in his pocket just in case, you know. It's like, it's played for laughs, but at the same time you think, you know, that's maybe not the best taste, is it? You know,
it's another one of those really poorly judged jokes because it doesn't work on any level. It's a poor joke for people who have real addiction. I'm not kind of joke police, but I think because of how they let the joke play out, that it makes you think of that, because just suddenly taking a swig doesn't make you instantly drunk. So the joke that he takes one swig or glug, whatever phrase you want to use, he drinks quite a bit, but still he wouldn't instantly be drunk, and his aim wouldn't instantly change. You would have had to have done that an hour ago or for the last 3 days, or so. Because the joke doesn't work, it reminds you again of like, it's a bad joke.
It is. It makes no sense, does it? And it's just a little bit poor taste. But I suppose, you know, if you can get offended by most things in life these days. I mean, I'm not offended by it, but it's just like, oh, you know, it's really not the best. But that's indicative of how him and Randy Couture, who'd been stalwarts of the series from minute one on that Somalian pirate ship to now. You get the sense they kind of put them in there because they needed them in there, because they had to have the old stages from
continuity
the team in there. Otherwise, it would literally have been no one. Because Statham's out on his own and Stallone is killed, in quote unquote, in the opening exchanges. So there would have been no one from the team, so they had to have them in there. But they're really given the leaf to do out of everyone as well, aren't they?
Agreed.
You know, it's a shame, really, that they brought them back 9 years on, only to have them as kind of sort of non-playable characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
it does.
Yeah.
You know, just recycling the old jokes of poor Randy Couture about his ear twice in this movie, let alone the fact we've had it in every other movie before this.
Yeah, I know. Randy Couture's biggest contribution in this film is pissing on a wall.
Yes,
that's the thing he does. You know, in the first film, he kills Stone Cold Steve Austin in a. You know, they have this brilliant bare knuckle fight, and then he like punches him into the fire, where he like burns to death. Who's been like this badass in the film, who kicked Stallone's ass 5 minutes, like killed Stallone 5 minutes beforehand. And so Randy Couture's the one to take him out. Brilliant, you know. And then in this film, his main contribution is to basically go and stand up against the wall and piss against it to activate the mechanical release on the ship's emergency door.
It's a flood thing, isn't it?
It's like a kill switch or something, where if it senses the water's there, it'll open up the door. It's like an emergency exit or something. But that's his biggest contribution to the campaign, to piss against the wall and then get stabbed and then just become
I love that
like a passenger.
Yeah, because I'd totally forgotten about the fact that he was the one that took out Stone Cold as well. Because that, you know, Stone Cold kicked Barney's ass so much that it affected Stallone the actor for the rest of his life. That's how much of a badass Stone Cold was in that movie, that, you know, he not only defeated Barney, but he defeated Stallone the actor too. And then now Randy Couture's reduced to being a piss joke.
I know, exactly. It's just not right, really. I feel really sorry for him. And Lundgren, they just make fun of the fact that he's wearing a really weird wig now
Yeah.
in this film as well, which, you know, he kind of says, "Oh, I've met some girl online or something. She likes the look or something," you know. Just strange, really. Strange choice. In a film full of strange choices, I think that kind of encapsulates that. You know, it's a film of strange choices and terrible CGI, I would say.
Oh God, yes. And speaking of, I mean, I agree with the CGI, particularly the opening and the closing. The green screen is atrocious. The helicopters look like they're from a PS2 game. But talking of strange choices, how about Lee's little segue into being private security when he's sacked from Expendables?
Yeah. It makes no sense as well, because he's like this, you know, elite level soldier. He's like ex-SAS or whatever his character's supposed to be, you know. And, you know, he's like elite operator as well. So he's been sacked from the Expendables. Why wouldn't he then use his contacts to go and join some other mercenary group, or go and do some, you know, private contractor work somewhere? Why would he go and do that? Just be like, he's like looking through the newspaper.
Yeah, like classified ads. Yeah,
for jobs, like a normal person. You know, he just wouldn't do that. You know, the amount of contacts he would have around the world, who could just plug it. A man of his skill would be in high demand. So he just ends up doing security for some social media influencer or something, isn't it?
So embarrassing, isn't it? Now, I'm going to assume you have as much exposure to social media influencers as I do, as middle-aged men, which is not very much, if anything at all.
Correct.
And that will continue from this day forwards. But I know it isn't what's in this movie. I know it's not some guy who looks like, what's his name? Is it Stingray, the guy in Cobra Kai?
Yeah.
He looks like a bit like Stingray in Cobra Kai, walking around a luxurious kind of indoor pool in some sort of mansion somewhere, with lots of kind of, looks like a music video essentially, but walking around going, "Oh yeah, the bitches, you're a skanky bitch, you're a skanky bitch," ew. And it's this like sleazy, fat, greasy dude. This is just not what influencers' life are like, I don't think.
No, because what is he like? What is he influencing? You know, what is he selling? I can't even remember now what it is he was. I can't. There's some kind of object, isn't there, or something?
Yeah, it's like an energy drink. I don't know, but yeah, and he's like,
something.
Which one of these bitches am I going to pick to go and shag now? Who's interested in watching that content? That's not.
Yeah, I don't get what he's. You know, he's like a fat Andrew Tate or something like
that.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. It's true.
You know, it appeals to that fucking incel crowd or something like that. I don't know, but it makes no sense that Stath Lee Christmas would find himself in that situation, other than hilarious comedy. Yeah. It's like, why on earth would you be doing that for a living? It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And again, it's back to that. It's that on that two levels. I think that's where this film keeps bothering me. Makes no sense in the movie, nor for the makers of the movie to think that this is a good scene to present to us. It's just, I think it's probably, you know, I'm only one movie away now. I think it's probably the most embarrassing scene the Stath has done in his whole filmography.
Wow.
I really do. I think it's the worst thing I've seen him do is this scene in this movie.
Jesus, that's quite some accolade, that from 45 films at the deep now at this point, as you said. Jesus. Having not seen literally everything in his filmography, I'm not in a position to comment on that. But I guess you're right. From probably 80% of the ones I have of his filmography I have seen, you're probably right. It is pretty dreadful, isn't it?
You know, and he was in Revolver doing that lift scene, going like, blah, 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 blah. But I'd probably rather watch that as a standalone scene than I would this scene from Expendables 4. It's real bad.
It is, isn't it? It's just, again, it's just an example of them just trying to get somewhere and failing spectacularly. You know, obviously it's supposed to be funny, isn't it? It's supposed to be hilarious. You're supposed to laugh at it and go, "Oh, that's brilliant! That wonderful bit of comedy." But it's just it's just not there, is it? It's just such. It just feels wrong for the character as well. Like why would Lee Christmas do that? And I know he's got to earn a living, obviously, but the character wouldn't find himself in that situation. The character would immediately be in some hot zone somewhere in the Middle East, you know, rescuing hostages or something like that. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, you know, that he'd just be doing that.
And none of the things do they? Because you track that back, it makes no sense that he was fired from the Expendables. I don't know how you get fired from the Expendables. And if he was, it's not Marsha's call. What the fuck's he got to do with them? He's just a guy who hires them for a job. When he walks in at the start of the movie, Lee says, "Oh, who's this dude?" And Barney's like, "Oh, he's this CIA contacts I've got." Well, it doesn't make him in charge of the Expendables. I hate that scene as well. And he's like, "You're out and she's in," and da-da-da. Fuck off, mate. This is our own little unit. It's got nothing to do with you.
I know, it's like, and no one like speaks up about it either.
Yeah, it really bothers me.
Why would Dolph Lundgren and Randy Couture have been there since the year Doc not go, whoa. This is not right. We're not having this. And they don't speak about it, and then they immediately accept the fact that he's out and Megan Fox is in. And then they immediately accept the fact that they're going on a mission with her in charge, and they don't give a fuck, basically. Yeah. You know, again, just nonsense, isn't it? Utter nonsense, you know.
Yeah.
I
think it's you know, I made that big call about the Stath scene. I also think this is probably one of the worst scripts. I don't mean for the Stath. I mean definitely for the Stath, but I mean like, of any movie I've ever seen, because just nothing lines up, nothing makes sense, nothing feels real. Character decisions like the flirt fight between Lee and Gina as well. It's just awful. It's just such a cliche that doesn't work in the movies it's trying to reference. It definitely doesn't work here. And then when they cut to post-sex, she's in a full like lingerie. Now, I get it. She doesn't want to do nudity. That's her choice. But the way that they cut and she rolls like off him on camera is like they've just finished having sex.
Yeah.
Well, how? Because she's got like a full like a onesies not the right word, but like a swimming suit style like negligee, like lingerie on. Not sure they had sex. And then Lee immediately starts talking about Barney, which suggests to me the whole time they were shagging, he was thinking about Barney.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So we're back to where we were in Expendables 1 about Lee and Barney. Really, they should just shag each other and then get on with it.
Yeah, it's really the script is really daft. It's kind of strange because you see who wrote the script. It's that Kurt Wimmer or Kurt Wimmer, however you pronounce it. And you look at his writing resume, and there's some good stuff in there. You know, he wrote the script for the Thomas Crown Affair remake, the one with Pierce Brosnan, which is a really good film. He wrote Equilibrium, the one with Christian Bale. That's a really good film. He wrote, actually, I guess this is probably your next episode of this series, The Beekeeper. He wrote the script. He wrote the script for The Beekeeper. He's done other things, Law Abiding Citizen, Street Kings, the one with Keanu Reeves in. You know, the remake of Total Recall will scrub, and the remake of Point Break will scrub those from the record, my lord. But you know, there's some good stuff in there. It's like a 30-year writing career here. But what, you know, was he high when he wrote this? You know, was he drunk?
Well, he must have been one of the rewriting team, mustn't he, as well? Because it wasn't. We've already got the Lee Christmas story, and we've got this other pre-existing script, which they've mashed together, and then I think he has then been brought on board to merge them and to make it into something new. So yeah, I think we're back to where we started, where they didn't really know what they wanted, and nothing really works, and it's poorly designed from script up, and well, concept up actually, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looks that way. You know, it was just an ill-conceived thing, wasn't it, from start to finish? It wasn't ill-conceived to do Expendables 4, and when it finally was like happening, I was very happy about the situation, extremely happy about the situation. But in some ways, I wish they had never made this film.
Yeah.
You know, whilst it's one of those films, but it's like I'm grateful it exists because it's more Expendables and it's more Stallone, and it's, you know, it's more this, it's more that. But it's just such an outlier to the other three films and bears very little resemblance to them, other than the fact that 4 people who were in the previous films are in this, but
Yeah.
only one of them with any real meaning.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it would be like making another. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that compares. You know, it would be like making a sequel to the Goonies, but only having like one of the Goonies
Right,
in it.
yeah.
You know
Just
what I
having
mean?
data.
Just having data running around.
He Who
and
Quant's
then-
popular again. Let's just do the Goonies with data. Yeah, sure. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just having like Corey Feldman and all the rest pop up at the start, and then at the end as well. You know, it's I don't know. It's such a shame because it, you know, they could have made it great. They could have made it great, but I think it's fair to say it's probably put the nail in the franchise coffin lid, hasn't it? I don't, based on the fact that it bombed at the box office, as well as not being good. It you know, plenty of poor films have made a lot of money, but this one just absolutely died on its arse, didn't it? So I don't see how they would ever have a green light to go and make Expendable 5. I think the only way you could do it and for it to like do well would be to go back to the well and overload on the star power again. You know, take that formula. I don't know who you'd bring in, because you'd have to bring in people you hadn't brought in before, but they'd have to be like name people. So you have to do it in like bring in The Rock and bring in
Keanu, Tom Cruise. I don't know. You'd have to get some real like major talent, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's never going to happen.
No,
because those people are not going to jump into the Expendable franchise when they've all got their own highly lucrative franchises that they're already part of, and they're not going to jump into it anyway. But that would literally be the only way you could, I think, get a 5th going and get enough interest in it, is if you really stack the deck with, you know, again, you could have, if Stallone said he's out, this is his last one, fine. I mean, the way it ends doesn't suggest that was the end of the road for the character. Maybe he could come in again as a cameo. And yeah, you could have, again, Jason Statham front center, but you'd really have to build around him. A huge star as your villain, loads of big names in the cast, but it just can't happen, can it?
No, I just don't. Yeah, I don't see who is available and interested for that to happen. Yeah, you could have Stallone as like the tool character, as Mickey Rourke from the first one, can you? And Stath as the Stallone character, now the de facto leader. But yeah, who you build around him, I'm just not sure who's available. No, and I don't think the Stath would want to do it. And I was just looking at his, you know, where this fits in his run. You know, so this is 2023. Obviously, this came out last year.
Yeah.
But you know, from 2017 onwards, you've got Fate of the Furious, like obviously massive success. The Meg, massive success. Hobbs and Shaw, massive success. Wrath of Man, even, you know, 40 million budget, 104 million box office, and here really that went straight to Prime. A really good film, big success. Operation Fortune's the only one which, it sort of just about broke even. But again, that was
one over here as well.
Again, it was a problem with release, I think. And then you got Fast X, massive success. Meg 2, massive success. Beekeeper, massive success, and we're getting a sequel to that as well, supposedly. And that whole team are coming back together for Stath's next movie. I think it's called Levon's Trade. So yeah, I mean, he's on a run for the last 6 years of every film he's made, elevating him and box office hit, and then there's this. So I don't think he'd be interested in coming back either.
No. I mean, you know, yes, he was a star of this. He was a producer on this film as well, and was supposedly quite heavily involved with the post-production as well. But I don't see what the appeal would be for him. He doesn't need it, does he? That's the thing.
He doesn't.
You know, he doesn't. If he needed it, then you could see why. But when, like you've just reeled off there, a list of films that are all massive, and you know, there's more. You know, there's a Fast and Furious 11 to come, which he'll have a much bigger part in than he did in Part 10. That'll be a whopper, won't it? I'm sure they'll conjure up a Meg 3 as well. Probably, that's the fact that Meg 2 did so well, and anything else you care to mention there. But why would you? You wouldn't go back to this based on the fact that this one was such a bomb. You know, if this one had done well, then of course, anything that does well, there will always be someone wanting to make anything that makes money. There will always be studios willing to green light a sequel. That's just how it works, isn't it? But I think there's no way that there'll be an Expendables 5. No way. You know, whether we ever get that Expend4bles film that's been talked about for many years, where it's an all-female lineup, you know, I think I would have preferred to have seen that than seen this, to be honest with you.
Just not with Megan Fox.
Oh Christ, no. I don't want to see her anywhere near this franchise. Hell no. But I just don't know how you take this anywhere now, unless you did some kind of complete reboot or something, you know, where you don't have these characters in it and you just have a complete new set up and call it the Expendables or somehow. But I'm not sure how that would work, to be honest with you.
It'll be the next Legacy sequel. We'll have to wait 20 years and it'll be, you know, the noughties action heroes. I'm not sure who that would be, but I think it's dead and buried, isn't it? It is. You know, it's quite telling as well that the quote unquote young talent that came on board in the third one, none of them came back. You know, Ronda Rousey, Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell's a real hot property now, isn't he? He's starring in films now. He's massive in Top Gun. He's the lead in the new Twister film that is out in a couple of weeks as we record this. You know, he's going places. Just had Hitman, hasn't he, as well? Yeah.
He's
a rom-com with Sydney Sweeney as well.
Exactly. He's a big deal now.
He's not shit.
Yeah, exactly. So he would never come back to do this either. You know, if you'd have got him in, you know, that might have helped because he's got a big fan base and he's it right now. You know, maybe if you brought him in and had his character constructing a team, that might work maybe. But again, why on earth would Glenn Powell do that? You know, he's going to the A-list probably. He wouldn't do this. So I just don't know how there is a future for this franchise, which is a real shame. Yeah, shame from where we started and what the concept was supposed to be, or what the concept was, I suppose, to begin with. Yeah, and it's just unfortunately now it's dead and buried along with Billy the Kid, isn't it? Yeah, on the shallow grave. Yeah. What's the message? What's the message in that? Wow. You know, how is it that that films that have a death wish live forever, right, and then great work like this dies? You know, what's the message in that? I know we're just about to wrap up, but I tell you what, the line that Toll Road does in this is just as bad, isn't it? I did write it down. Beware of an old man in a profession where men usually die young. And he says this is like an old expression. So I thought, fuck you, it's not. I Googled it, and it's from like a 2016 book from a guy who used to be in a Navy SEAL team, and it was something they said. And I was like, this old expression that everyone knows. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I get what he's saying. He's like saying, if it's you work in profession where die young and you're old, it means you're fucking dangerous, doesn't it? Because no one can kill you. So it means stay away from the old man because he can't be stopped. So I get it, but it's just a really weird turn of phrase, isn't it? It is, yeah. And a eulogy to these 4 random people in the bar. Yeah. Oh, well. It is what it is, isn't it? It is. All right, I'm going to read out a couple of letterbox, and then you're going to tell us where this rates next to the other Expendables and in the Stath's filmography. Yeah. Okay, Michael James says, without any doubt, it is the worst of the franchise, with some of the worst CGI. If at all anything positive, I liked the initial old school portions between Stallone Statham and the solid action sequence between Statham and Tony Jaa. But that's about it. Rest everything is very much expendable indeed. Can't argue. He kind of has repeated what we spent an hour saying, hasn't he? Really, you can't argue with any of it. He's spot on, really. I think I can't argue with anything he says. All right. Mr. Purple 54 says, my favorite part of this movie is when, in the dead of night on a boat with nukes, Jason Statham is being chased on BMX bikes while still on the boat. But the BMX bikes have guns, and he uses his bike and gun to shoot a practice drone to use as a ramp, 360 flips, and shoots the bad guys with the BMX gun, who crashes into the practice drone and explodes. Statham then says a one-liner, and then proceeds to get shot at by a grenade launcher. 10 out of 10. Do I detect a hint of irony from Purple, whatever his name was? That is,
Maybe.
yeah.
Although he did rate it 5 stars, so maybe
Yeah.
not.
Christ almighty. Well, that's optimism for you, isn't it? You know, bordering on delusional sociopathy or something. But yeah, I mean, again, it depends what you're looking for. If you know, some films you can enjoy because they're so bad they're good, and you take them for what they are and that. But this is a film that was not trying to be so bad it's good. This is like a film
No.
that, you know, this is like a fourth film and deep into a franchise that's done well and has even this film. You know, we've poked fun at some of the cast in this, but it's, you know, it's still got Sylvester Stallone, it's still got Jason Statham in it. You know, it's still the franchise that they've appeared in for 4 films in a, you know, a 4-film run. They didn't turn up to this like going, tell you what, let's make a really shit film, just you know, just for shits and giggles. To that, you know, they were trying to make something worthy of the franchise, but just didn't happen.
What is quite telling is that in all the behind the scenes and making ofs and often watch interviews and stuff like that, no Stallone, no Statham,
really,
in any of that kind of So you know, probably around this time, what Stallone's making Tulsa King, and Statham's got Beekeeper going on, and he's got his appearance in the Fast franchise. But yeah, I think they probably knew what was happening, and they were starting to distance themselves.
Yeah, that probably ties into what we're saying about the lack of promotion for the film. There was no press junkets, there was no premiere. You know, I remember in the third film they did this wonderful like premiere with all the stars, and there was that wonderful photograph they took of all the alpha males from, and they're all in the same room at the same time. You know, Stallone, Statham, Schwarzenegger, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, Wesley Snipes. You name it, they're there, and they're all there in the same room at the same time, taking this really like iconic shot. And they all turned out for like this premiere, all of them, and they're all stood together. You know, none of that for this, was it? Absolutely nothing. It just kind of snuck out. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
It's a shame.
The franchise deserved a lot better than this. You know, it was a real wasted opportunity to, you know, either progress the franchise and rebirth it after a gap and find somewhere to go with it for like another 2 or 3 films, or just put a nice little bow on it. And you know, but it didn't do either of those things. It just killed it.
It did.
It's a shame.
All right, let's surprise everyone with your final rating. I'll quickly track through. So when we did the Expendables, you consider that to be a classic within the Stath filmography. When we did the Expendables 2, you thought the same. You thought it was still hitting that classic status, whereas Expendables 3 dropped down to worth catching. So where do we land with Expendables 4?
Oh, dear me. Whatever the lowest tier is.
Only.
Completist only. Some would say masochist only. Rewatching this film felt like the ultimate form of sort of self-flagellation, you know, without the scars to show for it. Only mental ones, no physical ones. Like I said, is it the worst film ever made? No. Is it terrible from top to bottom? No. You know, there's some stuff like we said, you know, we like Tony Jaa in it. We like Iko Uwais in it. I can never pronounce his name right. Forgive me. We like what they bring to the party. It's, you know, Statham does what Statham does in this film. He's charismatic. He's believable. You know, his character's one-man army Superman act in this isn't really believable. But, you know, when he gets to do the sort of the nitty-gritty action stuff, you believe it. You believe him in the fight with Iko at the end there. You don't think, oh, come on, as if he could beat him. You buy it. He does what he does, and he does it very well, as good if not better than anyone who's current in the action genre, you know, who's still in their, dare I say it, prime years of still being able to deliver believable action, not, you know, being the older end, the 70-odd-year-old end of the market. You still own Schwarzenegger kind of thing. You do it, but you kind of really on the edge of like, no, I don't buy it anymore. Whereas with Statham, he's still right in his sweet spot, despite being deep into his 50s now, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
But still, you still buy it. So no, there is some good in this film. It's just such an overwhelming disappointment, isn't it, Jack?
It really is. Yeah, I think 2 is the high point, isn't it, for me? I think you agree, don't you? 2 is the high point of this franchise, and if you watch those back to back, 2 and 4, it would be really, really stark. And I found rewatching the first hour of this really, really hard work.
Yeah,
and I felt, as I said, embarrassed at times. And I'm glad I watched it alone, that I didn't have to excuse it to anybody sitting next to me on the sofa.
Yeah. Well, luckily Sarah knew it was coming because we went to see it together at the cinema, because she'd enjoyed the previous 3. She likes those kind of films, so we watched it together at the Pictures, I think opening weekend, and there was about 3 people in, including us. But when I said this was coming up, I was like, I'm going to do Expendables 4 soon with Jack. Like, I could see her heart sink, and she actually went, oh no, does that mean we're going to have to sit through and watch it again? It's shit. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to have to. I can't remember it from a year ago, just like, things to pick up on. She's like, oh god. So she read a book while I was watching it,
Good for her.
I wish
she's the winner here.
She is. She's the winner in life. It is what it is, isn't it?
Fantastic, mate. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to promote just before we go? Have you got any mandatory episodes coming out, or?
There is another mandatory music and CD episode in the can, although I'm not actually on this one. I had to. It was recorded just this week, but I had to sit it out because I had some work commitments that I couldn't get out of. So, there was a great substitute for me. Tony and Dave, they've got Tonya in to. She was coming on anyway, whether I was there or not. But obviously, the fact that I'm not there means there's more room for those 3 to wax lyrical. So that'll be dropping the next week. So where the album is Rage Against the Machine's debut, self-titled debut album, I should say. So that'll be dropping in the next week or 2. And then as we record this, depending on certain football results going certain ways, you and I will be convening again imminently to record for Spider-Dan's Alien Month, isn't it? We're going to be doing a classic DC Comics story together, Cosmic Odyssey, which I'm looking forward to revisiting. It's just the date we record it is on a sort of a sliding scale, depending on England's as we record this, England's progress or lack of progress in the quarterfinal this coming weekend. So we'll see what happens there. So I might see you next week. I might not. It depends. It depends, doesn't it? But certainly we'll be reconvening the next couple of weeks at the most anyway, depending on how that pans out. In
the nicest possible way, we both hope not to see each other next week.
Yes, that's exactly it. I do hope not to speak to you next week, Jack, because I want England to win. But if they lose, then every cloud has a silver line. At least I'll be able to talk DC Comics with you and Spider-Dan. So, yep, looking forward to that.
Superb. Thank you, mate. And thank you, everyone, for listening and partaking in this journey with me through the Stath's Filmography. That was Expend4bles. Next up on a fortnight, Glenn and Dan will help me wrap up Season 1 as the Stath takes his bow in The Beekeeper, for anyone that is watching along. I'm Jack's Musings, that's JACS, and you can find me on X where I'm most active. You can also contact the show directly on X or Instagram under the name Back to the Filmog. Make sure you use the hashtag #FollowTheFilmography. I'm also a proud member of the Comics Emotion family, a super place full of the world's greatest people, dedicated to bringing you podcasts on a variety of geeky topics. So please make sure you take the time to search, subscribe, and rate our shows whenever and wherever you listen. Until next time, be excellent to each other and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers.
cut